Proxima b. And this is a planet that's relatively close. They want to send some probes to, and they want to discover it. But the other thing, too, is the communication factor, the alien communications. How are we going to communicate with them? There's a movie called Arrival that came out last year. And it reminds me of when Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about alien life. He was actually interviewing Edward Snowden. And he was talking with him about alien communication, and he believed that it would be encrypted so well that humans trying to eavesdrop on extraterrestrials would have no idea that they were hearing anything but noise. And we know that, there are small baby steps we'd have to take in order to talk with aliens, or we'd have to somehow, grab unencrypted messages or basically decode a language like they did in the film Arrival. So if you think about what's being said, if you think about what was said last year, even SETI had said something to the effect that they were going to tell us the truth about 10 years. That was, I think, 3 years ago. So it seems to me that here we are in 2017, and when you're thinking about the 700 quintillion Earth-like planets, you have to think about the Drake equation, where Frank Drake, he developed this estimation, the probability of intelligent life in a given area of space capable of communication, and he used mathematics and theory. He and Carl Sagan came up with the probability of 100,000 to 1 million extraterrestrial civilizations existing in the Milky Way galaxy itself. And this increases as science gets closer to proof of life elsewhere in the cosmos. So we need, or we feel the need, to reach out and find out if we're alone in the universe. Now, is it superstition that fuels this interest? Is it religion that fuels this interest? Is it science fiction that fuels this interest? Maybe it's all of them. I mean, we have the technology, as rudimentary as it is, to prove whether or not we're alone. It's obvious to me that the reason why probes are sent out into space, the reason why calls are made into space, is because deep down, people know there's something out there. It's like trying to find life capable of answering a phone in the middle of the night or in the middle of the desert or in the middle. It's just one of those things that we certainly have to keep trying. And if you recall, in some of the science fiction films you saw in 2016, like Star Wars, you can see that a lot of the exoplanets, as I said earlier, look a lot like some of the exoplanets, or some of the real planets, or some of the fictional planets, rather, in Star Wars. There was actually a exoplanet called Ogle 2005 BLG 390. It looks like the planet Hoth. It's an icy planet. Planet from The Empire Strikes Back. I was reading about that today. The planet is pretty much a planet made of frozen tundra. The surface of the planet is kind of like Earth, but it has a temperature of minus 364 degrees Fahrenheit. So the whole planet is locked in a deep freeze, and scientists think that it might have been or similar to a failed Jupiter. It basically veered off, got cold, and they also found, or actually they have another doppelganger in Camino, which, of course, in the Attack of the Clones, Camino was where the clone army was made, and it was a planet inhabited by a familiar-looking tall alien gray. A number of them, actually. Kepler 22b is about 2.4 times the size of Earth's radius, and it looks like Camino, actually. It's not confirmed that it has an ocean on it yet, but it might actually be a gaseous world that some evidence suggests that it have liquid oceans and maybe even rain or something else that's keeping the planet wet or moist or whatever. I don't know, but it's interesting at least. These are some things that I found. And of course, with the idea of gaseous planets or gaseous giants or whatever you want to call them, you could have a city like Bespin, of course, the Lando system, Lando Calrissian. You can have one of those systems because you can actually get things from the clouds. Like, for example, if you were to mine the clouds of Jupiter and Saturn, you may find that it would be a perfect place to harvest diamonds. And a lot of people, that may be an interesting thing in the future, that if we have the technology, we can actually use it to do this thing. Speaking of Saturn, I talked about the Death Star before. The Death Star, which, of course, if you go to the Jovian system near Saturn, the moon of Saturn, Mimas, is a dead ringer for the Death Star. M-I-M-A-S, Mimas. If you look up the picture of Mimas, it looks like the Death Star. Now, I'm also excited for 2017 because I know some new movies are coming out that are science fiction, are really going to be cool. I mean, a lot more planet, long space travel movies like Passengers, and that's come out, but I'm talking about other movies about Mars. One is called Life, which I think is also interesting because the timing of it is interesting. It's about finding alien life on Mars. And also, there's going to be Ridley Scott's new film, Alien Covenant. But in Prometheus, which is the film that was just released back in 2012, Michael Fassbender plays this android named David, and in it he says, how far would you go to get your answers? How far would you go to get your answers? Well, in 2017, I can tell you how far. We're going to go to Saturn and Jupiter to find the answers as to whether or not life exists in space closer to Earth. Scientists are now hell-bent on going in 2017 to Europa, which is Jupiter's moon, and Enceladus, which is Saturn's moon. And we're not sending men there, but we're certainly going to send probes there. And they seem to be unusually optimistic that they will find life. I thought that was weird that they are now, as I said, unusually optimistic that, yes, something's out there and they're going to find it. The quest to see if we're alone in the universe right now, according to most scientists, inconclusive, and nobody wants to speculate. But right now, they're thinking that the year 2017 is going to be the year where things are going to change. Why do they think it's different? Why are they now telling us that they are unusually, certain, or they're unusually confident that they're going to find life out in space? Ask yourself this. I mean, it's a whole new world now, okay? We woke up to a different timeline, to a different attitude. 2017 is going to be different. Things are changing. We have a new president. We have a new attitude. We have a lot of new things happening. We have science fiction movies that are showing us the revelation of the method. They're giving us the predictive programming and the approximation of a future where, yes, science is unusually confident they're going to find life in space, or they're going to communicate with extraterrestrial beings. The whole attitude's changing.